Yep, that's what we got.
471, whatever it is with the debt service, right? Whatever that number, 470, 075. So if we take that divided by
50,000 to be gone.
470, 075.
We owe 53 or 4,000
31.9, ain't that
per
in
load
there?
on the bond this year.
It's like a
Here we
numbers
go.
game.
Right.
H5.
So what do we have for new construction? It's,
3.222.
3.222. So, and line 4. State law linked to this increase, what did you say that was? Right, okay. What is that? Personal property, I think is still 340,
355, 471, you have 355, 131 there. Oh, that's the 3407, okay.
Living limit before adjustments, line 8. Line 8. I'm glad I built that last year, I don't remember doing it, but obviously I did. I'm gonna go 300. Okay, and what is that? 84. So that is,
Well, I mean, it's double what the levy increase was last year, but I'm not sure it's 300. We're not asking to go up by
Oh, yeah.
$300,000.
What
That's
is-
what I was
Let's
saying,
say,
that's
yeah.
what was my question
what did we
before.
say? Yeah, 300,000.
But it's not. If you go back
Do
to
you
the
wanna go back to
spreadsheet,
289,
it's-
blah, blah, blah? Whoops.
Well, from last year, it's the 696 minus the 471.
so the 289,604 is what we needed to balance the
Right.
budget.
And that's what he had me put in there, so.
Right, no, I know, but I don't know that the 289,604 is the levy exceedance, because we're looking at the difference between 696, 619 and that 408 number. 40, whatever the.
407?
Yeah, well, I keep saying 408
Okay.
for whatever reason, but,
Right, and I just took the 407.15 plus what you had balanced to. Because Frank said to put that number in that cell, so that's what I did. So that's how we came up with the 696.19.
Well, because we put 300 into the new roads, is what you're saying.
Well, that was what we were out of balance. So you told me to take what we were out of balance and add that to that cell.
289,604.
I don't see how it doubles from 43% to 86%.
Well, they were asking,
They
they
were
were
asking
asking to go over by $150,000.
For a total of 620. Now we're asking for a total of 696, that's an increase of 76,000 over what they asked for, and theirs was last year 43.6%, taking the levy up to 620. I don't think taking the levy up to 696 would cause it to double, would it?
No, because first of all, we're getting more revenues this year than we did last year.
Right.
By whatever laws changed, right off the bat, I can think of 100,000. You know, without even hardly thinking it, 100,000. The actual increase over last year, if you go back to the sheet, was, okay, was 470. I'm looking at it this way, 696, just use the first three lines, minus the 471, that's the increase over last year.
With adjustments.
Just a little less than 225. I just don't see why that figure doubled.
if I take, so it looks like the state law limit to this year's increase is the payable adjusted actual levy times that new construction. So it's 11,095.76 based on our dollars. And so the total tax levy is gonna be 355,470 plus that personal property aid. And then what does that do? Well, let's go back here. Okay, 355,130.69. Oh, that's right, because they rounded. Yep, I got it to pennies. And if we say 300,000,
But okay, hang on a minute
Yep,
though, because if 344 and some change, 344,000 and some change.
Yep.
Plus 150 would put you at $494,000, right?
why,
If you add F and G in row 2, right? So ours looks like it's at 755,000,
650.
or I'm sorry, yeah. Well, that, I mean, that actually is about right, because we got 50-some thousand in state aid. And
Well, keep in mind, this is putting all of what we need,
Right.
all of what we're discussing for
Mhm.
roads into the tax levy.
Mhm.
We've been talking all along about doing some on the tax levy and some
Right.
from borrowing.
But this is, I mean,
Or-
this is the worst of the worst case scenarios from a funded via property tax standpoint.
Why does it seem like that's too high?
I don't know why it doubled. Because look at their figure, they're in the, I still say in their total town tax levy that they were asking for was 620,075, line 10, and we're asking for 696. So an increase of 76,000 over what they asked. When they asked last year, it was a 43.6% increase. We're going up by 76,000 over that, and it doubles that levy?
Something's wrong here.
I'm just trying to follow along. I did it a year ago, so I don't have a lot of memory on it. But this is what we used to.
So that 300 number, I mean, if 707 is what that is, we need the difference between our 600 and whatever,
696.
696.
yeah.
You want that in what?
I mean, the difference between those is what that 300,000 actually has to move. So if you take 289,
289,
whatever,
605.
does that
Is that-
actually come out to what that is? 289, 604, yeah. So that,
Oops. Hold on. No,
Close.
no, no,
uh-oh.
I don't want that. Back over here, over here. Okay. Stop.
I still can't. It still can't be right, because 470 is what it was last year, but the actual levy was, well,
It didn't
see
copy
where I'm
right.
getting confused now. Huh?
289,604, it did not copy right, it copied the whole value. Oh, no, it did, 289,604, I was looking down at the 696, 619.
Any comments back there, Jim?
No, because I can't see a lot of it, and I'm not sure
Have a
what,
chair.
I don't know your formula.
I mean, the math may be right up there, but it just seems like it's an extraordinary bump from 43 up to 81% for 70-some thousand dollars more than what they were asking for last year.
With us having more revenues, that's what's getting me.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's- So do we want to double check all this and meet tomorrow night? Huh?
Our clerk can't come tomorrow night. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do here, gentlemen.
Well, you can?
Well, I can if it was later, I posted it for 6 o'clock, because nobody really gave me an agreement on it. I mean, I can come and show up late, I just probably could not have made the 5:30. That's why we were gonna switch it to 7, now I made it 6, so.
I should say we want to put 81.549 increase in there if that's not what it is.
But what I could do tomorrow when I'm here for office hours is go through all of this and verify it against,
Is there somebody else you can talk to
well, the county
see if
helped me,
see if these numbers are?
yeah, I can
like
reach
the
out to
formulas and
the,
stuff?
probably Kelly.
Are you saying you can't be here late tomorrow night? Is that what I was hearing?
I just didn't wanna start at 7 because we've been here for I just
I
don't wanna run out till 10 or 11 tomorrow
back
night.
in my head.
What's that?
I don't have eyes in the back of my head. I didn't even look at my phone.
It's almost
It's
9.
9 o'clock.
Wonderful. Good.
So who's bringing the bacon and eggs?
Bacon and eggs.
It might still be here.
I'll text Dawn and make it up. Ready to
Well, if Dawn works up the numbers tomorrow and verifies some of this with the county people, then you'll have something to talk about tomorrow night that might be a little more factual, right?
So when do you think you can get
Laura,
here?
not Dawn.
Yeah, Laura.
We not to go through
Well, I
line
said it
item
for
by
6.
line item again, and we're done with that?
I said it for
Unless we
6
make a
o'clock, so
specific
the meeting's
change.
at 6, I'll just come as soon as I come.
What do you think, at 7 or?
I don't know, like I said, the guy's coming at 4, I don't know how long it's gonna be, I just didn't think
Oh, yeah,
5:30 was gonna be working.
Oh,
That was gonna be tight, but maybe 6. So, and like I said, I'll work on this when I'm here tomorrow for office hours.
Well, can we accomplish anything until
she did.
Laura gets here?
So part of what we're missing is the fact that the amount of, the difference in the levy is also related to debt service too, because we are retiring it, plus we're asking for it in general tax.
Yes.
So the 289,604 really I mean, included in that is $75,000 of debt service, 70-some thousand, whatever it was.
Right,
It
yeah.
would come down and then get built
Yeah.
back in.
Yes, and here's my question, just to clarify what I think you're saying. Going in last year was 470, but we paid off the debt service, so
Yeah.
it's 407.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Does that 84%, is that,
Gets us back to 470 plus the money,
okay, so that's really saying,
yeah,
okay, so,
that's why it looks
all right,
skewed
if it's
from
so, if that 84 is based on 407 and not 470,
correct.
then that's kind of a misnomer, isn't it? I know the math
Yeah.
works, But we're not actually raising it, the levy from 407, we're just raising it from what they paid last year at 470.
There's an inherent, what was your end up, I mean, the different, if you really look at the different, why is it 4077? Oh, I'm getting dyslexic at this point, sorry. I mean, when you're looking at it, look at that, 10 and 11.
Yeah, this is a big reason.
Right,
This is what we're really raising it from in reality.
correct.
Right, that's what I
So
was trying to
that's
say.
based on that figure. If that figure's based, and don't get me wrong, and I know the math is right.
Yep.
But this is what it was and has been, and it is as of right now.
Right, that's what I was
So
saying.
if this number were based on that, they're not really seeing an 81%.
No, we're not.
From
There-
today, they'd be seeing from
There's
this.
an exceedance by 82%, but the difference in the tax levy, the difference in the property tax equivalent, let's call it that, is,
Hypothetically, if we just plug that number down here, would it tell us what it would be from that figure?
Yes, try
Just
it.
put 470 in there.
it's a copy paste control Z. No, that didn't do it. It's a hard number.
Oh, it's a hard, yeah, let me do this.
That didn't change that.
It just did.
That didn't change.
Change what?
No, it's because it's looking at the red lines above it.
So you want,
Just go, just
So
hit
you need
control
to-
Z quick.
you want what?
I said just hit enter and control Z quick. Enter, or close your cell and then control Z to undo.
Enter, Control Z,
Yeah.
okay.
Then put it back.
What are you trying to get to?
Is column F summing?
Well, that 759 should go back to what it was.
So you want this back to the 407?
No, this one, when you made that 470, this one up.
Right, because
But that should stay at the 6,
It-
whatever it was before.
that takes the 470 plus your increased levy, and that comes up to your total tax levy. So since you started with this being higher, that's gonna be higher.
I know what you're after, but my brain isn't processing it at the moment.
Well, that 63,000, and whatever change you had there, needed to come off of the 696 and have the thing figured. Right. That needs to come off of the 696.
That needs to come off this. What number was there before you changed that to 470?
Well,
What was in F?
407.
407
Well,
something.
No,
I should
F.
have-
What was in F?
F?
Down here, where it's 759, what was there? 696, okay. Go to 470 and manually plug in 696, 618.
It's not, the spreadsheet's set up different than what you're trying to calculate.
And I'm not.
Yeah, we're gonna keep chasing.
But you know what I'm trying to get at.
What was that, 63 what?
63, 60, 26? 63, 06, 0, 26.
It just keeps moving the same. 15 and a half hours into the day. Mathematically,
Well, the 63,026 needs to come off the 289,604. And then recalculate. I'm
What
pretty
was
sure,
it, what did you have, 63, 06, 0.26?
is that what you said?
I think that's it.
63,000, yeah. That's probably more about what it is.
were the numbers yesterday when you calculate as an example, your income tax would go up $285? What were the numbers we were using then?
206 per thousand, were we?
Right, but how much in roads?
I think we figured 250.
I didn't scroll in here.
Can you bring up your computer?
I think it was 300 plus we had debt service in it.
Can you run one simulation for me
That's right.
on those other things?
Oh, yeah. I'm probably gonna have to sign it again, hang on a minute. Yeah. I get that.
Is there a number for a commission? for that?
Like-
Lands?
I sent you a email with
I'll
an
find
attachment
this.
with a letter, I can find it.
Then I'll call first thing in the morning.
Can I make a motion to move this out to the second agenda item here to tomorrow's meeting?
We can't, cause the agenda's already posted.
To the next meeting then?
So, the only
Because we still have another item on this agenda.
we technically did too, but, so the application deadline for Elbert Grants is November 1st. Just as a point of reference on that.
Well, that should be a pretty quick discussion though, shouldn't it?
Do we want to apply? Does anybody have a recommendation? Otherwise, we can.
Well,
Hold it.
we should apply for every grant.
We have to apply for a specific road. It doesn't mean that we can't. With LRIP, you've got one project change that you can make during the course of the grant. The sunset is 2029. Okay, what's your scenario?
250 this year,
250, 3, yep.
300 next year, and then 350 out. I don't think that's one we looked at, is it?
Yeah, it's,
No, we went 250, 300 flat. And we did, what's this one? I think this is 250 flat. Yeah, let's see websites.
What I'm basically doing is
Yeah.
looking at, just leaving it at 250 for 24, and then taking the bumps the next 2 years.
DOT doesn't pass in the box. And 250, 300, 350, 350.
well, I'll tell you what, you wanna take 50,000 off that 226, Laura? Take that off.
Let's see what this comes up at.
Well, you're just taking 50,000 more off.
Was that 226, that was a hypothetical, are you sure that's?
That's not
the right number?
hypothetical. Well, it's hypothetical,
Right, but you took 63 off of the prior, the 289, are you sure that was the right thing to do?
yeah, because that was the difference between the 471 and the, or whatever it was. What was it? The 471 and the 407.
Yeah.
So, 25.
So if you,
Here's 250, 300, 350.
Yeah.
so you get 50,000 off of that.
We did puke it out.
So 49, we got into the 49s, people.
250, 300 flat. Okay, so here's 250.
No, 250,
Yeah,
300,
no, I know.
350,
That's that. That runs on the computer.
so this is 250,
300.
350, 350, 350.
Yep. Still
Yeah, it doesn't
here.
do and like we said, we can always relook at it next year, but keeping it, to show Frank, if we just left it at 250 this year, we're still moving the needle on a lot, but we're twos.
Essentially, your net benefit is about
What's
$60,000.
What's the 5-year number?
Yeah.
It's still 3
So 301, this one is 250,300, this is 300. So 300 for 5 years looks very similar to,
253, 350. But that's still at 300 where we have a big number versus leaving it at 250 this year and then in your,
yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, it's the same cash input over a different staker.
and the thing that, to some comments we had, the thing is, like, if we keep it at 250 this year,
So we do,
and
but
next year go to 300, we'll know if we have grants and stuff potentially by that point.
Right, I mean, at this point, we know that the 23 applications fell through when we get,
Oh, did I just crack something?
I don't know. I'm gonna put that over there though.
I don't know, Frank, did you take a look at that?
So this is 300 flat, oh, I'm sorry, that's 250. And this is 300 flat. 300 for 5 years. I mean, we're putting the same amount of cash in, just at a different increment of time.
Right.
I mean,
We are trying to keep it at 250 this year, applying for every grant we can, and then staggering it up next year. Hopefully we have grants and then we're increasing it based on that. And we get the number down from 81 or whatever it was to 49.
if all the rest.
If
of
those
it-
are accurate.
Yeah, if all the rest of that math plays together.
But I think we need to, one, have somebody verify that our math is right. And then I think, I'd love to keep it at 300, but not if it takes it up. I don't think if we do, or at least we have to have a discussion if it takes it up to 81 versus.
well, it did, they actually took it to 63
63,
over last year.
that's still
I know, right here, we're just at that 49.7, looks more attractive, doesn't it?
no, it doesn't look attractive at all. It looks better than 66 or 81.
Oh, okay.
It's better than 3 digits.
But
Oh,
keep
Jesus.
keep in mind, the discussion has always been that we explain at the budget approval meeting, here's a pay-as-you-go option, and if that's not palatable for the residents, then we'll take on some debt service. So, right, that's what we've been talking about, right?
Right,
I mean, yeah, at that point, that number drops by another $140,000,
And
because you're going to a $68,000 a year loan payment.
And we have found out that if that would pass, it'd be wonderful. If it didn't, we could schedule another meeting 15 days out and come up back with a compromise or a lower figure where, you know, it's all a balancing act, right?
oh, yeah, I agree. Just make sure the big screens there are for the educator, Josh, who educate everybody at the school.
And at the end of the day, if you again put 0 in for roads and took that 50 out, we're still 32,000 negative. Okay, so we'd have to have something approved for that. But then you're going 2 years at least, maybe longer, without any road budget. So we'd have to make sure they understand the slides that if we would just take it out, what that does to our road costs over the next 5 years.
So like a 0, 0, something, something, something.
Yeah. So,
Dude,
can we agree, or, not, can we agree? I would like us to make a list of what we're gonna review tomorrow night on this, so we can be making progress instead of jumping.
It's gotta get done tomorrow night, right?
that's more or less. I think we've got until the end, because we went through and it was like the 23rd,
22nd?
just the second,
I
something
think
like
you
that.
had said the 22nd. 15 days?
Which is a Sunday, yeah, 22nd, which was a Sunday, so essentially we've got till Friday.
I think
But
we,
that's bitter
Okay, what questions, Laura? What do you wanna know?
I think we need to start narrowing our hypotheticals down to something that we all can agree that we wanna present. I think we need to verify see if we can get some verification to the math we're looking at, and Laura set you a check on that.
So,
But we need to start coming up, narrowing our hypotheticals down to something that we're all comfortable with, that we're gonna present at the electoral, or at the budget approval meeting.
okay, I'll lay this out here as far as the road project, the 5-year thing. 2 options, start at the 250, 300, 350, 350, 350. Or 300, 350 the rest of the way through.
It doesn't help us this year, that still puts that number really high. I mean,
I
if
said
that's
start at the 250.
well,
That's kind
oh, no, I thought you said,
The first scenario is, I say, the 2 scenarios, you said, narrow down a couple scenarios. One scenario is on 5-year plan, 250, 300, 350.
oh, okay, I misunderstood, sorry.
Then the next one is the original one that I like, 300, 350.
Right, and I did as well. Don't know, I'm okay with those looking at those 2 options.
Josh, you agree on that or not?
I mean, we absolutely can, be honest with you, I don't think that, from 2 different perspectives, I don't know that $300,000 tax levy is a good strategic move.
So
Because I don't think that, what is that, there we go.
well, then you stick with the 200 then.
I don't think that
If
$300,000
you're
worth of road work completely funded by the people in this community is something that is super appealing, given where we kind of were 5 minutes ago,
Who else would pay for it?
in comparison to mixing it with debt service.
Oh, no, that's what I was gonna say, that's the tax levy options. The other options we have to look at is, if we had no tax levy increase, what would the debt service have to be? And then is there somewhere in the middle where we ask for 150
Well,
and we take 150 in debt service?
last week we were
Somewhere in
looking
there.
at this, we had 250 plugged in. Then we went up, Laura entered a figure up to whatever the heck it was at the top. And that nice little figure in the bottom became 0, and there was no levy increase. What was the deal there?
We put in the equivalent of a $500,000 for 5 years, which the debt service is like $67,000 a year.
Which brought it back up to almost right up to 470 that it's at today.
Correct. Yeah, right.
We should look at that again tomorrow too.
So if we did 500 for 5 years, the payments were like 67 and some change.
How can that be? 67 times 7 times 5 is 350,000.
No, I agree. One of the proposals that was sent to us was 500,000 for 10 years. I think it was 500,000 for 10 years.
You're right.
And the debt service was 67,000 a year, which basically kept the levy at a slight decrease. What'd you say, 0.2%, 0.02, some, 0.01, something like that.
But the next year, we weren't borrowing 250 again, or we weren't having 250 on the levy the next year, were we?
Correct. I mean, that, right, the equivalent of that was
Year
like
three.
$147,000 worth of loose cash,
I think you said year 3, we'd have to be borrowing again,
if not
sooner.
Yeah.
So,
So this is the spreadsheet, you had me put PM in it.
Yeah.
put P on.
So-
P on.
It was 63,500 that we added. And then you had a loan for 300, don't do that, you had a loan for 330,000. And then we also had to add down at the bottom that
Debt service payment.
debt service payment.
And where was the 250 in that? Was that
That was 300,000.
300?
So you were gonna do road construction for 200,000.
And really, in the first year, we had 660, or $630,000.
No, It's a $330,000 loan to do $300,000 worth of work. Because
Oh,
the rest of the operating budget was 29 and some change in between there.
Yeah,
so the 330 really takes place in the 300.
Correct. I mean, it's a,
You couldn't be that good, could it, Josh? You just couldn't be that.
well, the issue with that projection is that you're paying for it for another 4 years and you covered 1 year worth of road maintenance at 300 grand. So year two, you're borrowing
Right.
the exact same thing.
I don't think this works either way. All debt service and no levy increase, all levy increase and no debt service. I don't think it works if we're gonna be investing in our roads. To me, it's gotta be some sort of combination of the two. We just have to figure out what is that sweet spot. Do you agree or disagree with that?
T minus 21 hours.
Well,
No, I agree with you. The rock and a hard place is that I mean, take 2023's budget, right? Anything from where zero went forward is going to have to be funded one way or the other. And if to your point, if we put it all in debt service, you're taking out a loan to do maintenance, which to me is a bad idea. If you're gonna take out a loan to do capital, that makes sense. But from the standpoint of what becomes palatable as a tax increase is a, obviously we can make it a best guess estimate, but, you know, to put all of the maintenance in loan, to me is I'll use the term mildly irresponsible, because you're, especially today, at 5%, you know, if we had 1.8% financing, I'd be the first guy to say, take out $1 million loan, and by the time you get done paying for it, CPI is gonna catch up to you and you're earning money on it anyways, you know, but in a situation where you're paying 5% interest on it, I don't see that it's advantageous to borrow entirely. And from the flip side of it, I don't think $300,000 on general tax is an easy thing to sales pitch.
I don't think it's
Now,
I don't think it's the right thing to do, and I don't think it's palatable to our citizens. So I think it's gotta be some sort, if we want to bring our roads somewhere close to a reasonable condition, it's gotta be a combination of the two. If, I don't know how
I mean, if you run the numbers,
if the people don't wanna do anything about roads, then okay, then we can take it all out and,
right,
and that would be fine, if that's what the people want, that would be fine, but I don't know that they do.
remember, you live out of Blue Spring Lake, you're gonna have to listen to that.
They're part-timers anyway.
I don't just,
I said they're part-timers anyway.
I don't just represent Blue Spring Lake.
I understand that.
No.
But they're saying that you're on that board out there.
I agree that you gotta have a combination. And you gotta jack that levy up somewhat and have the borrowing possibility as an ace in the hole. I don't see anything else that makes sense.
I don't think we should go lower than 250, okay, so it's up to you.
so no, I mean.
Then go to 275.
If you were to throw, okay, so if we're looking at the scenario, let's make sure I got, if we're looking at the scenario of, if you're looking at $300,000 across the board, at the end of 5 years, you end up with $300,000 worth of road work left, right? So if we look at that 250,
I think it was very close.
Why don't you try 275, then go to 300, and then go to 350?
Well, where I was going with this is if you use a round number, $350,000 worth of surplus work left at a 5-year term, if we're gonna do 250, 300 flat, right? So 350,000 divided by 5 years is 60 grand. I mean, to me, me, the mix of it is depending on how full tilt you wanna go with road maintenance or not, that $60,000 a year is ballpark somewhere in that $250,000 to $500,000 worth of loan. I mean, that's like the mix of this, right? If we're gonna mix between general fund, general tax, and debt service, the leftover funding, you could squeak it down, and I could run $200,000 a year in maintenance and figure out what that surplus is, with the idea that that surplus is a loan eligible kind of quadrant of the universe, that whether it's grant funding that pulls it down on its own, or whether it's additional debt service at some point. Like, the least in my mind that we have to do is to come up with a point where all of our road maintenance, meaning anything that's not grant eligible, so mill and overlay would be grant eligible, reconstruct would be grant eligible. Those two categories, if we understand that the funding part of it is going to be very expensive if it's cash floated by the residents, we take those two categories off, we take everything 5 and above, and we say, here's our maintenance need, this is what we need in the budget to do maintenance, everything else, please understand it's either going to be additional debt service, or grants, or a combination of debt service and grants, because we can't fund it. I mean, it's no different than buying a house. If you can buy a house and you can afford to make the payments, great, but a lot of people don't have $200,000 laying around to just go buy it, and, you know, so there's some understanding of wants and needs and what you're willing to give and take, and I can scratch through some of this and try to find that fine tune, what is it? Is it $200,000 a year in maintenance? And what's the surplus of work yet to be done at the end of it? You know, however we wanna go through it.
There's 2 steps in my mind that we have to accomplish tomorrow on this subject. That's, we need to determine how much we want for road maintenance in the budget for '24.
Now we're calling this whole thing road maintenance.
Well, that's what it's in the road maintenance,
Highway construction.
highway well, there's construction and there's maintenance.
The maintenance
This-
is northwest. That 300 is under construction.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, construction. We determine how much we want in the budget for '24. That's step 1. And then that's the first decision. And then step 2 is, how are we gonna pay for it? And decide what levy increase we're asking for and what debt service, what's the combination there that we wanna lay out and ask for? Right?
Right.
Otherwise, we're just jumping around,
Well, we
never
gotta,
coming to a conclusion.
we're getting to the point we can't be jumping around.
Right.
No, I'm serious.
No, I just said the same thing.
I can't see where we can go lower than 250, I just can't see it. That's where I'm at on that,
But I said we need to, first step was determine what we want for '24. But I still think that should be part of a plan that we show the people as well, with those graphs on the roads. So that we're not just saying, hey, we want 250 or 300,000 for roads, and they're going, oh, you know, because I don't think, and I'm not saying this as a negative, because I wouldn't have known if I hadn't been on the board and seen the charts, okay? Hang on, let me finish. I think we need to show them why we need the road money through the charts that Josh has put together. This is why. Here's the road ratings, and here's the money that we're gonna need to spend if we don't do anything, and here's why we wanna spend it. As opposed to just putting in the budget and asking for the funds, we need to show them why.
Can you call it short-term maintenance and long-term maintenance and define it that way?
I would call it capital improvement and road maintenance in my opinion.
Well,
And that would be year 1 versus years 2, 3, 4, 5 in that plan. And that plan can always be adjusted as you go.
So, Laura, right now, we got a $50,000 payment to pay off road prairie this coming year, right? So that's figured in there.
Yes,
And I'm just throwing this out, 250. If we can get people to commit to 250. Now,
They're not committing to the amount we wanna put in there, they're committing to
The-
what we're asking for them to pay.
For the levy?
The levy increase of 250,000 for roads, okay, new construction. So that's next year. Next year after that, the 53,000 is freed up. So we can work with that. On that avenue, we could possibly leave it at the 250 for 25. But then then borrow.
In year three,
Right.
or what, yeah, some mechanism.
And if we could get them to commit to the, just again, using the 250,